Welcome to my new weekly series. My name's Mark Mills. I'm the lead commentator for FIBA's Euroleague Women competition. Alongside some other basketball, I thought I'd bring you my thoughts and some behind-the-scenes looks this season. So each week I'm going to give you a preview of the week's Euroleague Women's action. I'll give you my thoughts on the latest news. We'll look at some key games, potentially some predictions as well. Hopefully I'll also bring you some post-match analysis after each round. If you want to follow me on social media, please do. My name's Mark Mills. I go by @MarkOnComs on the socials. I'll keep posting stuff throughout the season. But without further ado, let's jump straight in and have a look at the fast approaching Euroleague Women's season. So first up, let's have a look at some of the biggest news in the off-season. And without doubt, the biggest move is the new look format of Euroleague Women. This designed to make it even more exciting and every game being bigger and more important. However, not necessarily the most straightforward, so let's go through this new system. We now have a first and second round replacing what was our regular season. Instead of 2 groups of 8 teams, we now have 4 groups of 4 teams in the first round. Within each of these groups, they'll play each other twice, once home and once away. Top 3 teams will then progress to round 2, bottom team exiting and going into the Eurocup Women competition. The second round will see Group A and B combine to make a Group E, and they'll also see Group C and D combine to make a Group F. The teams will then play those teams in their group that they've not already played. So it's another 6 games for each team. To progress, they need to finish in the top 4 of their group. The top 2 heading straight through to a semi-final play-in, whilst 3rd and 4th will progress through to a quarter-final play-in. Bottom 2 in each group eliminated from the competition. This is where it gets a bit confusing. The winners of the semi-final play-ins obviously qualified directly for the semi-finals. The losers drop into the quarter-finals. The winners of the quarter-final play-in games will progress to the quarter-finals. The losers will be eliminated. This gives us our final 6, or as I'm campaigning for it to be called, the Super 6. These 6 teams head to the central venue, 2 quarterfinals taking place on Wednesday the 9th of April, the winners progressing to the semi-finals on Friday the 11th of April, with the 3rd place game and the big game, the final game, on Sunday the 13th of April. I know it's a huge change, a lot going on, but trust me, the one thing I would say is that the changes that have been made are all about making it a lot more interesting and exciting throughout the season, from opening tip all the way through to the final buzzer of the final in April. So the next big bit of latest news for Euroleague Women is that the roster of teams for this season has been completed after the conclusion of the qualifiers. Lond, Zaragoza, Brno lock in their spots in the first round. Lond in Group A, Brno Group B, and Zaragoza drop into Group C. Final piece of news to look at is that of Fenerbahce picking up the first piece of silverware, a 79-63 win over Besiktas in the Super Cup Women final. Close game for about 25 minutes, but that shallow roster of Besiktas came back to haunt them a little bit. Couldn't quite hold out for the full 40. Gabby Williams picks up the MVP award, an 11.7 rebound, 5 assist performance from her. More heartbreakingly though, Nikki Mule picking up a really big injury in the game. MRI after the game has shown she's damaged her ACL, likely to miss the rest of the season. Definitely sending our love her way. What a player. Can't wait for her to be back on the hardwood, even stronger than she was before, and hopefully she is back soon with us. Well, that wraps up our look at the latest stories around Euroleague Women. Now let's jump in and have a look at the slate of games in the opening week. As always, we've got 8 games across the 4 groups. For me, there are 3 in particular that I want to highlight. First one that grabs my attention is Lond taking on DVTK. Lond looked really impressive in the qualifiers, dispatched Besiktas with relative ease. Haven't made it out of the regular season before, but I feel that they might be able to battle their way into the second round this year, and who knows, maybe even further. The arrival of Destiny Slocum is a big one. That gives them a real offensive focal point. She averaged nearly 13 points and over 5 assists a game last season in Győr. In fact, she had a 26-point game against Lond in the regular season. As for DVTK, well, they were the real surprise package last year. I don't think anyone had them down as finishing second in their group, with only Fenerbahce above them. However, you do wonder, was that an anomaly, or can they actually replicate that level again this season? Kept a relatively stable roster. That's certainly going to help them in the early weeks of the season. And the arrival of Gulbey will certainly fill the hole being left by Garbin's departure. This could be a super close game. I'll give you my prediction on it later on in this video. Second game that grabs my attention is that of Schio against Avenida. Final game of the week and really has overtime written all over it. Biggest interest is clearly going to be around Girantes making the move from Italy to Spain. Clearly you have to face your old club at some point, but on opening night in front of their fans, that's a tough season opener. Schio bringing in Salone is a big move, could be a game changer for them. Salone brings a huge amount of hustle, a real versatile player that will help them this season. As for Avenida, yes, the addition of Girantes is big for them, but I think even bigger is a return of Fazula from injury. If she's back to where she was, she could be a really important piece of the puzzle for Avenida this season. This game has a ton of battles all over the floor. As I said, could be an overtime game, so make sure you book out a little bit more time in your diaries for this one. Final game I'm going to focus in on is that of Villeneuve d'Ascq against Fenerbahce. A replay of last year's final, always going to be an exciting one. This is game of the week. This is the game that I'll be covering on commentary on FIBA's official YouTube channel. Villeneuve d'Ascq, well, they've gone through major changes in the summer. Many of last year's successful team have departed, and they've had to spend their budget wisely filling in the void that's been left behind. I think the signing of Carla Leite is a nice pickup. She brings that no-fear mindset of youth and will be looking to make a statement this year. As for Fenerbahce, well, they too have made some big changes. McBride, Anderson, Collier, all leaving, but they have been replaced with some superstars. Gabby Williams, Julie Alamont and Tina Charles, not to mention Errol Atkins. Their roster is once again stacked, and don't forget, Emma Messman, well, she is on a mission. She's locked in to make history and become the only player to ever have won the Euroleague Women's title 7 times. Not sure this one will be a close one, but it's always good to have a look at last year's finalists on that opening night. Now it's time for me to get off the fence and give you my predictions for the opening week of games in Euroleague Women. I'd love to hear your predictions as well, so feel free to drop them into the comments. I'm sure you might think I've got some of them wrong. Let's jump in. Game 1, tough one to call. Both teams missed out on Euroleague Women last season. They'll be keen to get their seasons off to a good start this year. I think home court advantage will have the impact here, and I've gone for Brno. Game 2, Zaragoza, Polkowice. Game is interesting. Both teams made some big personnel changes in the summer. Really yet to see how those play out. One thing that will be the same as last season is that Zaragoza crowd. And again, I think this is a close one, but that home court crowd will push Zaragoza for the win. Lornd versus DVTK. Gave my thoughts on this earlier. I just have a vibe about Lornd. They keep building every year, and I think they could be the surprise team this year. Opening night win for them against DVTK in this one. Last year's Final Four hosts, Mersin, they have a pretty clear mission. They have gone all in straight away at the start of the season, bringing in those superstars, and I think they'll just be too much for Bourges on the opening night. Replay of last year's final between Villeneuve d'Ascq and Fenerbahce. Likely to be a very one-sided affair. Fenerbahce probably going to come out with a big win on this one, as we still wait to see Villeneuve d'Ascq's roster to really gel. Well, Valencia Praha almost made it, to my 3 to watch list. However, even though they didn't, still going to be an exciting one. Valencia kept their key pieces from last season, complemented it with some big names, whilst Praha, well, they are the consistent team. Most stable roster in the competition, and as it's week 1, I think that stability of Praha will pay off, but the return of this fixture in a few weeks, I think, could be a different result. Praha to win this one on opening night, though. Győr against Umana Reya, tough one to call. Győr made some changes, had some new additions that are very, very good, but I'm not sure they really have that headline superstar, the headline grabber that maybe they need right now. As for Reya, well, they're making a step up from Euro Cup Women. It's a big step, but they've certainly gone all out to make it a stick. They've brought in quality, they've brought in experience, and I think Umana Reya will just about sneak this one on opening night. As for the final game of the week, Schio against Valencia, I've given you my thoughts on that one. It does suggest overtime, it screams overtime to me, but I think Schio are tough to beat on their home floor, and that will give them the edge in this game over Avenida. So an opening night win for Schio. Well, that wraps up my preview of week 1 for Euroleague Women. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you haven't already, please do follow me on the socials. It's at MarkOnComs. Make sure you tune in on Wednesday as well on FIBA's official YouTube channel, as I'll be commentating on Villeneuve d'Ascq against Fenerbahce, that replay of last year's final. Thank you so much for listening in today, and I'm sure I'll see you all courtside soon.